Cameroon's former colonial master so indifferent to the evolving crisis rocking the country's English-speaking northwest and southwest region since October 2016. In this edition, we probe the reasons for the rather lukewarm attitude so far displayed by Britain, France, Germany, and by extrapolation, the United States of America. Elsewhere and apart from foreign denunciations of the perceived infringements on freedom of the press in Cameroon, we ask, in the wake of the crisis and the protracting war on Boko Haram, why are local journalism organizations opting for sealed lips? And then, away from the verbal reassurances voiced by some government officials in recent days, we ask, will Cameroon be ready to host the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations, considering the observable delays in the execution of several infrastructure projects? This is Toughtalk, and we'll be back with deliberations in an instant. Henry Atembe, it's good to have you once again.
Yo, thanks very much, Divine. Good morning to our televiewers, and good morning to my
co-panelist.
Well,
Elie Smith, it's a pleasure once again.
As always.
Thanks for coming. So I'll just tell you the story. Northwest Governor, he's called Elie Lafrique, has been touring parts of that region to install newly appointed senior divisional officers and other administrators. And all across the tour, he's been calling on traditional rulers across the Northwest region to work towards the effective resumption of schools in September.
Yeah.
That's for the next academic year.
Well, I want first of all to commend Elie Lafrique because he is the contrary person to the brutal fellow you call Bena Okala Bilai, who is in the southwest region. I think he's in his right.
You got evidence to back that claim?
Yeah, but look at the way he speaks, Okala Bilai. Look at the way he just talks. Everybody knows that when you have this issue where he went to meet the Bishop of Boya, and apparently he did not. He even came there uninvited or unannounced. But that is another day we can talk about it. But also some people can be violent, whereas they are good. Maybe verbally aggressive, perhaps they are good in the way they behave. But as far as Elie Lafrique is concerned, the Northwest region, he is a very good governor. The only problem with Elie Lafrique is that he was appointed by Paul Biya and a system that nobody likes. But he is good now. Asking the royals of the Northwest region to work for schools to resume, once again, he is in his own rights. But then, are the royals the ones who ask people not to go to school? I think no. What I think is that where I accept it is this. Perhaps the royals will be able to get the reasons why people are not going to school and channel it over to him, and he will be in the position to honestly give it back to Paul Biya or to the Minister of Territorial Administration. But everybody in this Cameroon and in this world knows pretty well that the reason why schools are not resuming is simply because to borrow the parlance of Mr. Kejang, the spiritual leaders of the West Cameroonians are in detention at Kondange maximum security prisons.
All right. So the last time he made the call was on the 17th of July, when he was commissioning to face the new SDO for the Boyo division of the Northwest region. Now, Kejan Henry, the question in there is, on Tuesday night, we got news and reports of flames gulping parts of the Lycée Bilenk de Kumba, that's in the Southwest region. This is another instance of scaremongering. Would the traditional rulers in the Northwest be spared attacks if they went on to call on parents to send their children to school?
It's a very good question. The traditional rulers of modern times are drifting away from what traditional rulers used to be. Sometimes they don't concert with their people. Most of them have lost the confidence of their people because most of them have been seizing farmlands from their people, from their subjects,
and selling them off to the rich ones.
And reach themselves and passed in front of those very subjects with flashy cars. But then there are some of the royals who still command respect amongst their people, and their people too still respect them. But my fear is that these very royals, some of them termed royal beggars, have always sometimes received money from the government. We have proofs.
They actually are on salaries.
Yeah, they are on salaries, and the last time when they wanted to abate the crisis, they went with sacks of banknotes to be able to give them to convince their people to go back to school, which did not work. I don't know to what extent. It is true, like Elie said, Governor Lele Lafrique Chuffer Debem is doing his job, which is a commendable one, of course, from any administrator. If you send me to go and install, I will say the same thing. That's very clear. But will the royals accept?
Even if they accept the occasion, Henry, would they be heard?
Would they be heard by their people? That is another question. Unless they consult with their people and carry it, let it be like a fact-finding mission. What do they want?
Okay.
And then he will transmit it to the appropriate quarters.
Okay, Elie Smith, I think the hardliners of the Anglophone struggle know, and they know quite well, that, well, the bargain they can still count on is the back to school, and of course the operation goes down. Now, if they give up and let schools resume, it's tantamount to losing the struggle.
No, I think initially in this program, I think the last program, I said there are several options to be used in the current crisis. One of them was this school boycott. But this school boycott, perhaps you are aware, it wasn't even called for by the leaders.
The leaders
It was a popular feeling, a kind of sympathy and support for those who were deported from West Cameroon into the prisons of East Cameroon, because people felt that it was unfair the way they were arrested. That's why people decided in solidarity to support them. So I think that I am for the children to go back to school.
Yes.
But what I think is that in order for children to go back to school, the enabling environment should be in place. One, release Aya Paul Ebine, release all those people such like Mancho, Fontem, and the rest, and Gwabala. They have to be released. Those are the people I want them to be released. If all those 151 people who are in detention are released, and then the security forces of the Republic of Cameroon who are operating in the northwest and southwest regions start behaving with some decency and respect for human rights, there's no reason why schools shouldn't resume.
Kejan Henry Atembe, there's a catch in the question I'm going to ask you now. According to the cause hardliners, those promoting the prolongation of the crisis, if schools effectively resume, well, those he's been mentioning, the Ayapol, Abines, the Agbobalas, Macho, the Big Cs, and Neba Fontaines may well rot in prison.
That is the fear. But in another way, I think the pressure that is coming from the international community, from human rights organizations, might help out the situation. Don't forget that the last time there were this procrastination on their eventual judicial, how do you put it? Place them under judicial supervision. Yeah, which means that there can be a glimmer of hope, but they might not rot. And you see, when in times of crisis, when we try to sort solutions, it should be an issue of sorting lasting solution.
Okay.
Because if you keep them, if schools resume and then you keep them again, you might probably break that cycle of school reopening. So I think the hardliners may want to believe that if schools resume, they will rot in the prison. Well, I don't look at it that way, because the procedure or the due trial is already on.
Okay.
So it might go right up to the end. Since the last time Justice Eko said that they are charged of terrorism and incitation of violence and so on, that the trial must go right to the end.
Okay, I think we're going to take a break at this point. That was just our icebreaker. When we come back, we'll be handling the main sticking points for this other edition of Tough Talk. Don't you go away. Well, sorry for that rather long break, but we're right here. And so about 8 months after the eruption of what many now prefer to term the Anglophone Spring, Cameroon's former colonial masters, including the likes of Britain, France, Germany, and to an extent global democracy guarantors the United States of America, appear to have opted for a rather lukewarm approach to resolving the crisis. How do you explain such indifference? Do you first of all agree there's been indifference from these superpowers, Elie?
No, I don't agree. There has not been indifference. It depends. For example, let's look at case by case, because the countries you've named the United States,
UK,
the United Kingdom,
and
France and Germany.
Now, the United States has been doing a lot.
Underground. Because we don't know what's been going on.
Yes, because sometimes, the approaches of the ambassadors are different. Formerly, I think in the 90s, there was one lady here, I've forgotten her name.
Javi.
Janet. Anyway, I've forgotten her name, if it were Janet.
Janet E. Garvey.
Yeah, she had, like a woman, she was outspoken, and did we have the necessary result? I think yes and no. But now Mr. Hosa has a different approach. First of all, the budget of the United States investment into Cameroon has increased under Hosa. And the other thing, and secondly, Hosa believes in calm, or how do you call it, lukewarm or under the carpet diplomacy or pressure, simply because you have in front of them a group of people who are ignorant, old, arrogant, who have a certain feeling of stupid patriotism. Then I want to say the United States has been doing a lot.
But Elie, I'll stay with you a bit. I'm not contradicting you entirely, but I'm just saying that apart from the likes of caucus of congressmen and women back in the United States, the Trump government is yet to make a formal pronouncement on the Anglophone crisis. That's the level I wanted us to stay at.
Okay, yes, the Trump government is yet to make a pronouncement, but they will certainly make a pronouncement. Why? Because Trump will come under heavy pressure from House of congressmen and women and other people from the House of Representatives. Remember that there's a large pool of citizens of West Cameroon, or let me put it officially, of the northwest and south of the regions, who are resident and citizens of the United States of America. They have dual nationality. These people amount a lot of pressure, but already at the State Department, there's a lot of heat being turned on them. So come what may, it will one day or within weeks coming get into the White House, and Trump will be able to say something. That is going to happen because the United States is really making a great pressure. Now, the country that is not speaking and that is doing nothing is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And it is a shame, but it is not the first time. Remember in 1992 when the presidential election took place in Cameroon and John Frundi won, what the United Kingdom did, instead of supporting the United States and Germany, what the United Kingdom instead did was send out people down here into Cameroon to try and find out whether the Francophones would have accepted an Anglophone to become a president of the Republic. This is not the first time that the United Kingdom is betraying the Anglophones of Cameroon. The big traitor of the United Kingdom to the of the United Kingdom vis-a-vis the Anglophone is called J.O. Field. J.O. Field was the last Governor General of West Cameroon. And if J.O. Field would have written an honest note to Her Majesty, I think we would have had a third option. But to the discharge of J.O. Field, if you read the book of Chief Victor Mukete, My Odyssey, it appears it was a changing dynamics or the changing attitude of Mr. Indeli, who is the father of Anglophone nationalism, that really perhaps worked or influenced J.O. Field into changing his mind. But it doesn't try to absorb the role of Britain, that Britain has really not helped us. Okay. And in this current crisis, Britain is doing nothing.
Okay, you've touched on the United States. Mm-hmm. You've just touched on Britain. Kejan Henry, before Cameroon was partitioned between the British and the French, Germany was there. The Germans are not even concerned. Why is Cameroon not hopping to the priority skills of these superpowers' agendas
It
at
should
this
be,
crucial point in
it should
time?
be an issue of superpower agenda, not an issue of Germany, because Germany was knocked off the game when they lost the wars.
It should have a voice in
They
what
will
Cameroon
not even
becomes.
have a voice of what Cameroon becomes. But let me say that probably at the level of diplomacy, at the level of interest, Germany could say something. The discrete intervention of the other countries that you mentioned,
Yeah, the United States.
like the United States, because a discrete intervention, and even the UN, which is the governing body, and when you talk about the UN, Germany is part of that body, and so they can have a say. But what I think is always lagging. I want to believe that the British are probably struggling to understand the unchanging realities. That is the way I'm looking at it.
Can you explain that, Henry, on changing realities?
The reality is that there is an Anglophone problem, there is a crisis now. And the crisis is not moving,
It's not evolving
towards a solution. And the more we keep quiet to understand what is happening, by the time we get the answer, it might go off hands. And that is what the British are doing. But I want to say that if you think there is this non-interventionist way of doing things at the level of diplomacy has actually affected the crisis, I want to believe Cameroon's sovereignty is still there, and they're probably working on that basis, but bringing small contributions, understanding the crisis, and probably see a way forward to in try to solve it.
Elie Smith, let's come to the United Nations. Because if we mention Britain, France, Germany, and of course the US, I mean, it's only natural that we recourse to the UN. The UN actually had to wade into the crisis only after it took a 3-month-long internet blackout. After that, silence. What explains such taciturnity?
First of all,
despite the agitations from some of those organizations closely linked to the United Nations?
No, before I could respond, if you permit,
go ahead.
I would like to say that the United Kingdom, we have talked about the United Kingdom, the treachery of the United Kingdom vis-a-vis the people of West Cameroon. They don't say anything. I think it's a kind of contract between the United Kingdom and France. Yes. But you've not spoken about France. France has a very nefarious role in what is happening, because if you read one book that I've been naming, I think it's a masterpiece in understanding how this government operates. It's written by a Cameroonian by name Pierre Elie, former police commissioner. The title of the book, the name of the book is called Dossier Noir. You know, the problem with France is that, because you talked about the United States, you have to also talk about the negative role that France is playing. What is happening, the intransigent mood of the people in Yaoundé is simply because they have the backing of France. Because France has this syndrome
why would France be interested in seeing a crisis protract this long
because
in Cameroon?
Brilliant. The problem of France is that France has this syndrome of fashoda, because France thinks that the Anglophone Cameroonians want to Anglophonize Cameroon, which they think it is a French territory. Remember, there are two people who spoke about it. One is dead, Charles Pasqua. He said in 1994 that an English-speaking Cameroonian cannot rule over a French-speaking country. And there's another person, he happens to be my friend, Michel Roussin. He's a gendarmerie, the former chief of staff to Jacques Chirac when he was the mayor of Paris. He also said Cameroon is a French-speaking country. And the French people think that the agitations of the Anglophones has a kind of pullings of the Anglo-Saxon world that they are constantly at war with. If you could remember that when the unification took place in 1961, the Francophone, the French government felt that it was an expansion of the Francophones over the Anglophone, a kind of victory, while the Cameroonians took it as the unification of two brothers, yes. But to the people in Paris, it was a kind of expansion. And it was a very good, it was an annexation, because even the expansion of the CFA franc took over, there was another expansion, because most often we talk about Equatorial Guinea and Guinea-Bissau, we fail to say that West Cameroon also is another expansion. So now, talking about the United Nations. The United Nations...
Why the silence?
The silence
after wading in to ensure the restoration of the internet?
Simply because those who have veto powers at the United Nations, like France has been working day and night to to scuttle any kind of pressure or any kind of pressure that the United Nations might bear onto the Republic of Cameroon.
Okay.
It only happened, I'm not here setting the cat out of the bag, when the United States, contrary to what people think, decided to say the United Nations has to do something when a person who has a kind of an overriding power in the United Nations, which is the United States, when they decided to call the United Nations to order, that's when
they sent Luceni Fall.
That's when Mr. Luceni Fall, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Guinea, Conakry, decided to come, and then the United Nations and the Cameroon government reacted, because the United Nations have the secret of Cameroon. They know that the unity in Cameroon currently is what you call, in using in pidgin, it's called Njomba. I don't know. It's a kind of loose union which has not been authenticated. So once the United Nations steps in, the government of Cameroon has the right to act. So the United Nations will eventually continue. That's the reason why it's important for Anglophone Cameroonians and Cameroonians abroad to continue making the pressure they are making.
While we wait for the United Nations to come back, like you say, Elie Smith, something may happen. I can, paint a difficult and dangerous scenario. I mean, they may only come back when the worst may have happened. Henry Kejan, consider the failing health, steadily failing health of detainees of the likes of Ayapol Abine. What if he met his demise in jail at this point in time? The UN may be wading in again too late.
Yeah, they might be wading again too late. And that is what happened in Rwanda. Because if you go back to the Rwanda crisis or the genocide, people saw it coming, but nobody could do anything to abate the crisis. But which good will they be doing, or what good will they be doing to Cameroonians if they have to come in only when the situation must have gone off hands, arms conflict and so on and so forth? Will it be to bring more arms or to help people infiltrate arms and make business or carve out territories as buffer zones for their interest? Because we know that, don't forget, the last time, I'm very suspicious of this, the last time the Russian fleet anchored at the coast of, the coast, I see a reading which is not very good for Cameroon.
What was that reading?
I see a reading of two superpowers trying to clash in Cameroon. People should not think that the Russians were coming here to probably look for fuel off the shores. But it is not good, because when you allow the conflict, which is at this particular point in time becoming very dangerous, you will probably not help doing any good to Cameroonians. The people already, like we were saying, are saying that they have changed their school calendar from September to January, which means that they already bear in mind, and the United Nations, I learned, has gone down the field or on the ground to gather some facts, just like the United States. If they interview the people and find out, know from their minds, rather than sitting and waiting for either the media or the government officials to come make releases, they will know what the problem is, and they might be able to tell the government directly that this is what we have on the ground. The people are actually reticent to go back to class.
Okay. Thanks to Jean Fanjo, we can see pictures of the colonial era when Britain and France were ruling Cameroon as a trusteeship territory. Elie Smith, there have been various movements of Cameroonians abroad, protests, agitations, and so on. Are those all summed up under two words: vain efforts?
No, they are not.
Because they've not moved those Western powers enough to react.
But yeah, you are absolutely correct. But you need also to understand that I beg to not to agree or ruffle the pride of some Cameroonians, is that Cameroon is not a strategic country. Cameroonians might think like that, because a major conflict here, except people start dying in their numbers, until then shall you see the United Nations stand. But the United Nations and these major powers that you have mentioned have been doing things under the table. Like the United States has been doing a lot, because without the United States involvement, I think things would have gone offhand. They have been working a lot. It's perhaps the attitude of the United States ambassador is not the kind who goes on rooftops to say what they are doing, but they are doing a lot. The only negative person on the block is that the French. The Germans have been doing a lot of things, but the British are just neutral. But the effort of the diaspora should continue.
Okay.
It should continue. That's the reason why I was a kind of surprised when the chairman of the SDF said the diaspora should leave the SDF alone. The diaspora has a major role to play. They are there to pressure the government to work. And the only problem that I have with the diaspora is that when they start having this their division that you hear, they have Maurice, Kafko, or whatever they call themselves, they have to be united.
Henry, is that the reason for the indifference so far showcased by Cameroon's former colonial masters, for example?
No, it
the
should
fact
not.
that there are fractures in the movements abroad?
It shouldn't be that reason, because when pressure groups come up, there's an issue, or there are bound to be issues of leadership. If Skafu and Maurice are disagreeing, because there's another one which we failed to mention the last time, and the name is slipping off. But then I don't think it's the reason. There are many.
Skakov,
They can be,
and just to inform our viewers that we are here to talk about the fractures. We're not here to talk about all of the Anglophone groups that exist abroad,
right.
because someone actually pinched us on our YouTube channel.
Exactly.
Yeah,
To
very
indicate
correct.
that we need to do more research to be able to name all
No,
of
we're
the
just
groups.
talking about the fractures divine, like you said. Yes, but then I don't want to believe that because the groups are, splitting over, it could be a reason for Britain or UK's indifference. Well, if they have something to say, they might even ask those groups to unite, to form a united front, so that they could that could create an impact back home. But then, whether or not they are united, the fact is that back home, Cameroonians already know what they want. Okay. Now, the point is not whether SCAFU is doing this or having an interim government, whether Maurice is having its government. The issue here now is, what are these different groups doing to impact Cameroonians? There are those who want, because Cameroonians, myself, I know what I need, I know what I want, and I know what I want for my children. But then, will I sit to wait for, those groups to tell me what to do back home? I don't think
so.
I need
I'll
to.
stay with you with this question because it cues in beautifully to what you just said.
Come on.
Is counting on these groups to change the plight of former Southern Cameroons wishful thinking?
I don't think so. Let me be very clear about it. Because when this action started with a simple demand by a certain barrister, Abeng Roland,
for the translated
Abeng
version
asked
of the
the
Ohada
translated version of the Ohada law. That was the genesis of the crisis, the trigger. The teachers asked for the non-adulteration of, and schools were going on normally. The diaspora was not there. We are not saying that they are not doing anything positive. But then the people now went in. Even when the teachers said they were joining the lawyers, the call did not come from out of the country. The role of the diaspora now is to push forward, the complete marginalization of the Anglophone man as a whole. And then sustaining the strike action. That is the role that I think they are playing.
Okay.
But the Cameroonian Anglophone knew that he or she had a problem and decided to sit home. The diaspora only came in probably months after.
Okay.
So I don't think they might, have changed the mind of the Cameroonian or the Cameroonian that I am.
Elie Smith, some perceive that the recent concessions made by the government, the creation of a common law bench at the Supreme Court, a section at INAM, and so on, the appointments, could probably be seen by these Western powers as appeasement enough.
If that is the case, then
And that's why they don't find it necessary to step in.
no, there is a major power that I will not give I will not mention.
China?
No, China cannot. China is a dictatorial regime that doesn't have any care for human rights. So China will not care if you can kill the whole of your country, provided you give them the contract.
I only want to talk about Canada.
You see. So there are countries, the Canadians, but I'm saying that among the countries that you mentioned, not all of them will buy that public relations stunt carried out by the government of Paul Biya. There are others who are currently on the field as we speak to find out what the nativist, because they think I need to insist that it is a nativist Anglophone movement. It doesn't suffice for you to speak English, for you to have any connection whatsoever with what is going on. So what is going on is a nativist movement, and that's the reason why there is a major power, a major country among those you have mentioned who have people on the ground currently in West Cameroon trying to find out what they are thinking and what are their reaction as concerns the appointment, whatever you call the common law bench,
The concessions made by the government.
the concession. And from what I gathered from them is that they have discovered that the people are not satisfied with it, for the simple reason that those who are behind bars went behind bars for these reasons. Why do you stay behind and unilaterally decides to implement things? And we have discovered that there are some loopholes in all those things, because when you create a commonwealth, a common law bench at the Supreme Court, right? And then it becomes like a department, right? It is not a full-fledged. What we would have wanted was that it is a full-fledged bench with sub-departments as you have with the Francophone own. It doesn't become a kind of appendage to the existing thing. The thing in this country is that the domination of the Anglophone, of the Francophones, must cease. We have two cultures that must be must be at par, at the same level. That is what is the problem. And now any of those powers that will take all those goodies dangled by this regime for as if it's a lasting solution will just be a manifestation that they don't understand what is going on. Because it's not going to stop what is going on, because what is going on is fundamental. It has to do with what an SDF MP whose name I've forgotten has said, and I think Wilbur also mentioned it. We need a time in this country to convocate a constituent assembly to chart the future of this country. Either we are going to remain a federal republic, we are going to separate, or going to be a central unitary.
I think if Chairman Nijon Fundi, who's the chairman of the Social Democratic Front, if he's listening, he will tell you the SDF is elaborating a conclave to draft a roadmap for Anglophone Cameroonians. Kejan Henry, without much ado, can we just wrap it up here? Without foreign intervention, do you see schools resuming in September? It's a tough one, right?
It's a tough one. Without foreign intervention, which means keep the foreign nations apart, and let's sit as Cameroonians and look at this issue as we stand. Is the government accepting? Now I repeat, the government is not accepting, and the people too are not giving in to what the government has proposed, which means that there is still a standoff.
Okay. Thanks very much, Elie Smith, Kejan Henry.
Thanks.
Let's take a break now. When we come back, Gina Leke will be here with what tops our news agenda for this Thursday, the 20th of July 2017. We'll be back in a moment. Thanks for staying on with us. So Cameroon has been claiming the news headlines for the very wrong reasons in the past couple of days. The African Cup of Nations hosting right threatened. The boat capsizes off the shores of the Boncha in the southwest region, killing 34 Cameroonian soldiers. Unending fatal Boko Haram attacks in the country's far north. And just when we thought it was time for the country to take a breather, here comes another one, a damning Amnesty International report actually charges Cameroon with committing war crimes in its confrontations with Boko Haram. Gina Leke, welcome.
Thank you.
This is uncomfortable news once again for Cameroon.
Exactly. Excuse me, the Cameroon military is being attacked from all fronts. I mean, it's not been long. I mean, it's a matter of a week or so. it's a matter of a week or so when the Nigerian government accused.
That's another one I forgot.
Yes, the Nigerian government accused Cameroon's military of killing about 97 fishermen in the Bakassi Peninsula, and just yesterday, Amnesty International releases these very disturbing reports that indicates that Cameroon's military has been torturing some suspects in its fight against the Islamic sect Boko Haram. And the report from Amnesty International actually puts the figure at 101 people from 2013 to 2017 that have been tortured, and most of them, 80 of the cases, were in the elite headquarters of the Rapid Intervention Battalion in Salak, that is in the far north region of the country. The report describes some of the methods of torture and is actually very heartbreaking. I'm sure some of the pictures should be rolling by now. I mean, some of the...
We have them on the screen.
Yes, some of the methods. One of them is called the goat method, Divine.
The goat method.
Yes.
Explain that.
And by the goat method, the report says that you have the hands of the individual tied behind and the legs also tied behind, and he is thrown to the floor and beaten, and sometimes beaten to death. And then you have another method, they call it the swing method, and it's similar to the goat method. The difference is that when your hands are tied, your hands and your legs are tied behind, they put you in between two poles. It's like you're swinging, and as you're swinging, they are beating you. And Amnesty International is decrying this because these people who are being tortured are not confirmed members of Boko Haram yet. So that's why it is kind of alarming, because these people could be innocent, but they are being tortured, and some of them die in the process of, excuse me, of the torture. So Amnesty International equally reports that from some videos that they have, this military base has equally hosted some French and American troops.
Forces.
Yes, and Amnesty International is worried and is urging the American and the French government to really investigate into the matter to find out if at all their military personnel who were in that part of the country knew of this heinous, what they call heinous crime that was going on against humanity, that they really have to investigate.
So if they knew, why would they be silent?
That is the question. If they knew, why would they be silent? But it's what has been going on. It is 4 years today, and the videos they are talking about, they say it was in 2015. They have videos of French and American.
But the curious thing would be to ask them, to ask Amnesty International, why wait all this while and only come now to publish the report?
I think that the reason why they are publishing it now, it's because they have, from information that we gathered, they have, you know, contacted the Cameroon. They have made some of these figures known to the Cameroon government, but apparently the government has been very mute. So they have put it out to the world so that the world should see what is happening. I think it's a means of saying that this has to stop.
Colonel Bajek, that's the communications chief for Cameroon's army. He has a word on that.
Exactly.
I read something on Reuters.
Yes, on Reuters. Exactly when the report was made published, when it was made public, sorry, an official at the Ministry of Defense actually said that Amnesty International is acting in bad faith, accused Amnesty International of bad faith, saying that Amnesty International is trying to convert or transform killers to victims. That's trying to say that maybe these people who were killed are actually Boko Haram members of sorts. And
but the report actually states somewhere that it suffices for you to be found in the wrong place at the wrong time and probably without an ID, and you're gone and done with.
Exactly. And so Colonel Bachak is trying to see, saying he said that from the report on Reuters, that Cameroon army is that they are responsible and disciplined people, and that they do not have time to respond to people who have preconceived ideas. I mean, I think
which
that
means
he
it's
took
a premeditated attempt to tarnish the image of Cameroon.
Exactly.
You trust in personality now.
Well, I mean,
it's difficult to say.
Yes, it's difficult. It's difficult to say, but I just think that the Cameroon government has to do more than just, you know, pushing away ignoring it, because this could be innocent citizens. Because amongst the victims, we have women, we have even disabled people. Some of them are tortured to death. I mean, they have to look into it, because it could really be something that the military is doing which is not wrong, and they have to bring them to order. And I would just like to say that, I mean, from that accusation from Amnesty International to come back to the killings in Bakassi, which we spoke about,
97 Nigerians,
97,
that's the figure that we have, right?
yes, so 97 Nigerian fishermen being killed. That's what the Nigerian government announced, and I think the information went viral last week, and even the Nigerian lower house of parliament already launched an investigation to bring to light those who are responsible for this. But just to remind you that just yesterday, the Minister of Communication, Cameroon, the government spokesperson, has reacted to this, he calls it rumor.
Issa
Chiroma Bakari. He is refuting all the claims that the military officers actually killed Nigerian fishermen. He is instead saying that, on the contrary, these officials who went down to conduct a check on a certain fishery levy were instead attacked by hostile Nigerians, and he's saying that Cameroonians did not kill the fishermen. So
let's wait and see. We don't have anything losing.
Exactly.
Let's wait and see when they do their findings and we get the results. We will let you know.
Definitely.
Thanks, Tina.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
sincerely for coming. But you don't go away right now because we have Steve Cockburn. That's an official with Amnesty International. And we actually got in touch with him. He redirected us to the British Broadcasting Corporation, where he had granted an interview. And he said we could use it. So this is Steve Cockburn reacting to Amnesty International's charge on Cameroon. Of course, the charge is hinged on war crimes committed on the sidelines of the war against Boko Haram. Let's hear him.
So we're able to talk to a lot of people who have spent a number of years in prison and have actually been released over the last year. Often people who've been acquitted in courts after being detained for a long time. We're also able to talk to lawyers. We observed military courts. We have analysed satellite imagery of military bases to match that up with the testimonies that we've received from people who've been held there. I mean, I would say from the evidence we've collected that the vast majority of people who've been arrested that we've talked to are people who've been caught up in the wrong place in the wrong time and have very little to do with Boko Haram. We look at their legal dossiers. We observed court processes. People are often arrested on the most basic of grounds. For example, not having an ID card. Yeah, so we collected a lot of evidence about the presence specifically of American military personnel who are present since about 2014 on one of the main military bases, the main military base in the north of the country. This is a place where torture is widespread and routine. It's where dozens of people are detained at any one time. We are not saying that the Americans or other international personnel have been directly committing acts of torture, but we are saying there are some really big questions that need to be asked around what the military personnel present knew about what was going on and whether they took any actions to try and prevent it or report it to their hierarchy. I mean, certainly there's the fact that we are describing these as war crimes, which is legally absolutely correct. These are crimes under international law, taking place in a conflict situation. This is what legally this adds up to, and it shows to us the severity of what we're putting forward here, the severity of what we've discovered, and that sort of proof of those accusations requires a serious response from the Cameroonian authorities.
So we'll never stop saying thank you for your devotion to Tough Talk. And that's how we move on to our second sticking point this day. As we speak, Atia Tilarius, that's the former political desk editor of the Sun newspaper based in Limbe in the Southwest region, and the Boya chapter president of the Cameroon Association of English-speaking Journalists, who has been in jail for a couple of months, has finally been officially charged. That charge was served him last Friday at the military tribunal in Yaoundé. So he's been tasked with promoting terrorism activities. Elie Smith, that's a big one. It's like sprinkling salt on the gaping wound. We've been looking at how to resolve the Anglophone crisis. Here comes another nail on an unlocked coffin.
Yes, it simply shows that, as some people have always said, we have a government that is insensitive, myopic, and may I even say, they have it with heavy hand, they are primitive. First of all, I want to say here in an unequivocal term that Hilarious was and is not a terrorist.
But let's get the facts straight here, Elie
Yes,
Smith, before
yes.
we proceed. He was reportedly nabbed or caught in possession of anti-government tracts.
Yes, I can respond to that. You know that this government is so vicious. What they do now is that they have targeted a group of journalists that they set them up. He was clearly set up. And may I just inform you now that if you are traveling to the southwest region or the northwest region and you are a journalist, don't accept any possession whatsoever, any package that somebody gives to you. Hilarious was set up simply because Hilarious has been vocal on this Anglophone
I think
issue.
we need to ask Jean Fandio to let us see Atia Hilarious. We have images of Atia in the machines.
Exactly. So I want to insist that Hilarious is our colleague. He is innocent. Being a journalist is not a crime. And I think I even saw one very good hashtag that Kawala put on Twitter, that journalism is not a crime.
Not a crime, right.
And Hilarious is not a criminal. This thing should stop. Cameroon is not the Republic of Congo. Cameroon is not Equatorial Guinea, where people will be arrested willy-nilly simply because they are expressing their opinion. Hilarious was framed up, arrested. Now he's being charged for terrorism. And this now comes to in defense and in support of what people initially had been saying, that the so-called anti-terrorism law was not meant to fight terrorism, but was meant to fight people who have different views to that of this current incompetent, criminal-oriented government. Hilarious has done nothing. It's just the same as they did with Ahmed Abba. So Hilarious Hilarious has done nothing. As a journalist, I am 100% in support of Hilarious, because he was simply doing his job and he was set up, he was framed.
I want to interrupt you there, Elie Smith, and
Yes.
get over to Enrique Jean. If you are arrested in possession of anti-government material, you're not doing your job, are you?
If I'm arrested in possession of anti-government material,
In this case, tracts,
in this case,
calling for boycott.
calling
and
for
so on.
boycott. What quantity of tract?
No, tracts.
If I pick, for example,
anti-government tracts.
yes,
and
anti-government tract.
tracts.
As a journalist, I'm moving on the street, and I hold a tract that has been dropped so that I can use it to treat information. I don't think I'm distributing tract.
Okay, that may be admissible.
Yes.
But what happens if you have a whole bag?
If I have a whole bag, I remember I told you some time ago on this same program that as we come to the office every day, you don't know who stays behind and moves into your house. They can put anything in my house. I live at Sitesicam. Everybody knows where I live, and the security officers know where we all live. It's not something that we are hiding. And if they go into my house and put grenades or bombs or whatever, it is as easy as that. My children are there. Now, if they come and frame my children up and keep a bag that Papa has said you should keep this bag here, and the next couple of minutes they come and pick me up, they will tell you that they found this bag in my house.
Self-discipline, Henry.
We all know this.
Self-discipline requires that you don't leave your. I mean, you don't go to an airport and abandon your bag.
But we are not talking of cases at the airport,
They will
Mr.
not pick you up. Now, this is just being logical
Yes.
and struggling to get
No,
balance.
but you struggle to
on
get
this
balance to
issue.
say that. Okay,
finally, that's Hilarious on
That
the
is
screen
Hilarious
now.
Atia. Did he? Now, did they find him in possession of a load or a carton of anti-government tracts?
It was actually, I mean, according to the police report, it was a bag of tracts calling for boycotts.
Calling
that
for
was
boycott
sent
by
to him from Bamenda.
by someone. And Elie, like Elie was saying, they sent to him. Someone sent him a parcel. That is what he said. If he accepted the parcel, that is a different thing we are talking about.
So he actually went to collect the parcel.
Since he went to collect a parcel, it could be a parcel that has been framed. That's what we are talking about.
So he
but
was
for
arrested.
what I know, like Atia, that I know, because the day he was arrested 2 days after I interviewed him.
On February the 12th,
Good.
2017.
I interviewed him and he was arrested 2 days, and we were laughing. We were talking about this same Anglophone problem. I was on the news, and then he spoke live on the news from Boya. 2 days afterwards, I hear he was arrested. Now, if they are telling me Atia was probably the person who ordered for a load of trucks, well, I will still doubt it.
But is it an offense to be caught in
Well,
possession of drugs?
it's an offense to be caught
Okay.
in
Elie
possession
Smith,
of a truck. We don't argue that fact.
so let's just remind our viewers that Atia was arrested alongside Amos Fofon of the Guardian Post, and of course Mo Fondong of the Voice of the Voiceless newspaper. Elie Smith, the roster of Anglophone journalists currently behind bars, probably for just reporting the Anglophone crisis, is quite long. I think we have about 8 Anglophone journalists currently in prison. The Team Finance, the Awa Juniors, the Hans Achombas, and so on. Does it bother you, Elie Smith, that an umbrella organization like the Cameroon Association of English-Speaking Journalists would up till now not do anything spectacular that we can see and appreciate as vouching for the freedom of these men?
Yes, but if you could permit, Divine, if I could respond to that very important question that you've posed, I wish to tell you that there is a new stratagem that this evil government has hashed. What they do now is that they call you on the phone. If you're a print media man, they promise to give you an advert. There is a case of a journalist had escaped arrest 2 days or 3 days ago.
Yesterday
in Boya. So I want to tell you, I want to refuse that act where he was caught with in possession of a backload of anti-government tracks. Now, if that police is if they are so wonderful, so brilliant in their investigations, why didn't they go and find out where that backload of anti-government track came from?
I think that's the lead that led to the arrest of Mo Fondong and Amos Fofon.
Good. The thing is that the chairman of the syndicate, the Cameroon Journalists Union, the Nikwebo. Yes, I'm not betraying him here because he told us, he's the one who warned us. If you are going to Anglophone Cameroon and you're a journalist, ignore any person who gives you a parcel to take, because the police will frame you and they will arrest you. So now I'm bothered that a lot of Anglophone journalists have been arrested simply because this government didn't want people to report on it, mindful of the fact that we are a divided country. Our brothers and colleagues francophones who do not know the reality of Anglophone Cameroon will not report on it, as they always report on things that happens in Ivory Coast or in Gabon. So it was incumbent upon the Anglophones to report on what is happening there, and the government was not happy about it. That's the simple reason why they decided to be arresting them willy-nilly. Now, am I bothered and worried that an umbrella organization called Kamasej is kind of lukewarm, not on the stage, vouching tooth and nail for the Anglophones journalists to be free? Yes, I am. But I understand that they are carrying out under the carpet diplomacy, right? Doing things without going to the rooftops. But for Christ's sake, it's a mistake on their part. What I would have expected from them, they would have done what SNGC does, which is championed, which is cheered by Denis Kwebo. They would have been at the forefront, coming on every TV and radio stations, going in various newspapers to write about. I'm even worried about the Sun. Could you imagine that
they have a political desk editor behind bars and they're not even doing anything?
They are not doing anything. Normally, the Sun would have, because we can now accuse Kamasej, right? But the Sun, where they come from, why don't they have the photograph of Tilarius affixed somewhere to say this is one of us?
He's been in jail for so many days.
They don't say it, and I suspect the Sun is playing a kind of game, because I understand they want to have adverts. I bought their newspaper the other day. Anyway, they brought it here. You have the advert of the minister of so and so. So you see, they have this problem of survival. They are taking this blood money from this same government. Hence, they are a bit worried to talk about their colleague and friend. I think that Kamasej
maybe because I spoke to officials of the Sun, some of them anyway, about this, and they say their job is not to defend someone who has not been discharged of the charge.
Do you think that is logical? Don't you think that that amount to treachery is because the guys of the Sun, I will say it and they can come and tell me, I feel they're not honest with Hilarious. You cannot have the political desk editor. It's as if here at Canal doing English, one of us is arrested and then we come here and fold our mouth and they say nothing. The other day when I was arrested at Equinox, didn't you see how Equinox did? And I was not working for Equinox. For almost a week,
They beat the drum.
they beat the drums. So it's a shame to the management of the Sun. I understand they want to have their
Sun
contracts.
newspaper is
The
based
Sun
in
newspaper
Libya,
based
Sun
in
was
Libya and
switched.
is not doing anything. But I also find that it is also shameful, disgraceful on the part of Kamasej to sit and do nothing. So it's a shame. I would have wanted Kamasej to come on and say something. So Henry Kejan is my friend. He's my colleague. You are a shame, Kejan, because you're in front of me and I cannot be vocal against it. You are a shame and a disgrace to us because.
So maybe Elie Smith, the
Yeah.
impression that Kama says is that after all, this is a government that does not respond to especially calls that come from within, and it only takes the likes of the Committee to Protect Journalists, Amnesty International for Issa Chiroma Bakari, the government mouthpiece and communication minister.
No, Divine, please, I'm not interrupting in a way. I think that Committee to Protect Journalists, Reporters Without Borders, they will have more legitimacy, more weight, if they find that they have support from the ground. Unless show that you are doing something and
just coming to
help you. If you don't do
So
anything,
Henry, is it a long lost cause? You are Secretary General of the Cameroon Association of English-Speaking Journalists. Why aren't you saying anything about Atiatilaros and the rest?
No, but if you say that, I'm happy with what Elie said. If you say that Kamasej has not been doing anything, then that would be a blatant lie.
lying, what have you done, Kejan?
No, Kamasej, you used the words under the carpet.
Yes, I did.
The president of the national president of Kamasej, Simon Lyonga, has been doing much in that light.
Who knows about what he's been
Yes,
doing?
and that is good. Kamasej
We're talking
does
about
not
the
listen.
media and we're talking
Yes,
communication.
Kamasej is, listen to me.
Simon Lyonga needs to go and learn from the Nikki Kwebo.
No, the point is, like you said, not shouting on the rooftop, but Kamasej has been doing much. There are different ways and different approach to do things. And let me tell you that Kamasej, just like any other journalism association or syndicate or trade union, put it whatever name you give it to Kamasej, I'm not like defending Kamasej, whatever name you give it to any journalism body, the one thing is to protect the interest of that body.
But
sometimes
say you have reduced the Kamasej to a social gathering.
Kamasej
a
is
meeting where you just go.
Those are the
eat,
critics, and
so
let me
on.
tell you,
What effectively
when
has
this
the organization
particular
done for?
bureau took over from the Trisha Oben bureau, and I want to be very clear, the Kamasej had gone comatose. There was only the image or the skeleton of Kamasej moving. Even before Trisha took over from Wache. Francis Wache. Kamasej was a matter of the president and the secretary general. Now Trisha revamped Kamasej. Kamasej came back with steam. By the time Trisha's mandate was ending, Kamasej went comatose, all the chapters. And as I speak, I am the one who revamped. I installed Senyambo Divine.
Let
me tell you, I want to tell you that
let's come back to what we're talking about.
Our original,
what has Kamasej done
immediate
to seek the release of
objective,
these imprisoned journalists?
Our immediate objective was to bring back all the journalists to belong to this organization. And that is what we did.
What have you done for those who are in jail?
Now, those who are in jail, Kamasej National Bureau, the president is there, you can call him, has been doing much. And just like saying, we don't need to trumpet when it is not necessary to trumpet. But when Tilarios was arrested and Fofu, that same moment, I sent information to the national president. If Tilarios, if you can get to him, they would attest to the fact that the president on a regular basis is there because he's in Yaoundé.
Right.
He is there, he moves there, he's amongst those people who could visit Tilarios and Fofu easily.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Henry, but I think journalism is not about private initiatives. I think it's communication.
No, it is not a matter of private initiative because
it is public business, right?
Good.
Let me give you an example of an organization that is doing great for the protection of the interests and rights of journalists. It is called the Committee to Protect Journalists. It has just revealed that Ahmed Abba will be one of 5 winners of its International Press Freedom Awards scheduled for New York City on November the 15th this year. That's some piece of heartwarming news, Elie Smith.
Exactly, it's
Even
an
though
extraordinary.
Ahmed Abba is in jail,
Yeah, he's
sentenced for 10 years and fined 55 million CFA francs.
Yeah, the fictitious sentencing.
For withholding terrorism-related information.
You know, we are in a country whereby we have a kind of selective press freedom. I don't want to compare us to the Popular Republic of Congo, of the Republic of Congo, Brazzaville, or the Equatorial Guinea. We are better than them, but we have to be best. I think that we have a problem of press freedom, and when we have a comforting news like that from the CPJ, it is kind of warming to a person like Abba, who is behind bars on Trump charges. So I think that the Kamasej should borrow a leaf from the CPJ. We are all learning, Cajun. You are, for Christ's sake, the Executive National Secretary General of a noble association. You have done a lot, but you have to. Journalism is not speaking behind bars.
Hush, hush.
Yeah, I can understand.
Let me tell you.
Yeah, so you have to copy. And this thing of Abba, I like what has happened with Abba, because it's going to remind the corrupt and dictatorial regime in Yaoundé, and I will hope that the apparat official one will come and say something about it. It is a good thing for the CPG to think about Ahmed Abba, and we think that one day the government of Cameroon will come into its senses and decide to free him.
Okay, so Angela Quintal is the Africa Programs Coordinator at the Committee to Protect Journalists. She was with us on this program previously, that was last week. She comes back and in the following package explains the criteria used in picking the winners of the 2017 International Press Freedom Awards, and of course precisely on why Abba Ahmed was chosen. Let's listen to her.
Hello, Divine, and good morning to all your viewers. It's great to be back on your show, so thank you very much for the opportunity. You wanted to know why the CPJ has awarded its prestigious International Press Freedom Award to Ahmed Abba, the Hausa correspondent for RFI. As you know, Ahmed reported on Boko Haram attacks in the north of your country, as well as issues facing refugees there who had fled from neighboring Nigeria. Well, it's simple really. This is a journalist who was convicted in April this year to 10 years in jail by a military tribunal on terrorism-related charges. The trial was a farce, and what has happened to Ahmed is a monumental travesty of justice. Today is his 722nd day behind bars for his journalism. We have said it before, and we will say it again. Journalism is not terrorism. Ahmed was arrested in July 2015 under your country's controversial terrorism law. He was tortured, his civil liberties were trampled upon, and as many human rights organizations have noted, his trial was manifestly unjust and was essentially a kangaroo court. It is an affront to justice. An innocent man in the prime of his life has been jailed. Ahmed is a victim of a government who brooks no dissent and who has sought to make him an example so that other journalists will fall into line by embracing self-censorship and towing the government line. CPJ's board of prominent editors and journalists from around the world was unanimous in its decision to honor Ahmed in this way this year. As you are well aware, since late last year, Cameroonian press freedom has come under a heightened crackdown. At least 7 other journalists are now facing similar charges under the anti-terror law. Awarding Abba with an IPFA therefore highlights Cameroon as a country where press freedom is increasingly under attack, but also where international attention has been lacking. There can be no doubt that the name Ahmed Abba and the injustice that he has endured will now be known to millions of people around the world. CPJ's Executive Director Joel Simon has put it beautifully. He notes that journalists around the world face growing threats and pressures, and I quote, "Those we honor are the most courageous and committed. They stand as an example, that journalism matters. Ahmed Abba exemplifies exactly this. You have asked whether we are concerned that Cameroonian authorities may criticize our choice. Well, instead of criticizing, the government of President Paul Biya must do the right thing. It is not too late to correct the injustice that has only served to diminish Cameroon in the eyes of the world. The government must free Ahmed Abba. It must release the other journalists who are currently in jail, facing trial under the terrorism law. Cameroon is better than this. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much to Angela Quintal. We actually burst you yesterday, and we had that feed by this morning. Thanks very much for your input and the contributions you make to edify opinion here and abroad on why we need to have a free press in Cameroon. Thanks once again. Even though Keja Henry, the Committee to Protect Journalists distinction may be perceived by the government of Yaoundé as provocation, how do you distinguish a journalist who is behind bars for treason, really?
You know, sometimes these these awards are provocation. In fact, they look provocative on the part of the government. Don't forget that the same, our own very Henriette Ekwe received an award. I think it came from Madame Hillary Clinton, and she traveled out of the country. The government did not like it. It's always been that way. So giving an award to Abba is not certainly going to go well with the government. Now, since they have given you an award, for that, even someone like Lapiro de Mbanga, who received an award for being vocal, for his position, did not go well with the government. So I don't think the government will be happy to hear that, well, our prisoner has received an award from the Committee to Protect Journalists.
Elie Smith Abba was initially arrested on July 30th, 2015, while reportedly investigating Boko Haram operations in the Far North. He was held incommunicado for 635 days before a verdict was pronounced convicting him of course to 10 years imprisonment and 55 million CFA francs in fines. Does he merit the CPJ award?
Yes, he does. He does, simply because he is a victim. He has been punished by the government of Yaoundé for doing nothing but his job. So he deserves that. And the other thing is that it is also an act for us not to forget him, because were it not for that award, though he's not an English-speaking journalist, remember, if Tilarios is never given such a thing, the Kamasai, you guys will forget about him. So what the CPJ has done is very good, and it's not the very first time. Albert Lutuli, he got a Nobel Peace Prize. He was first in jail. A number of them were out given Peace Prize. There's this guy this lady, Aung San Suu Kyi of Burma, who has today become a disappointment because she's not living up to the initial expectation, because she's supporting the killing of the Muslim Moringa in Burma, and she says nothing. Was given a Peace Prize, a Nobel Peace Prize, while in jail. Li Xiaobo, who just died in China, got one while still in jail. So the CPJ is not a novelty. It's on the contrary something to encourage and something to felicitate when it has happened.
Okay. Now, just to let you know that the other winners of the award, the International Press Freedom Award, scheduled to unfold on November the 15th in New York City, include people from Yemen, Thailand, Mexico, and the United States of America. But Keja Henry Atembe, the fact that the government keeps resorting to trying journalists in military tribunals is indicative of the length it is prepared to go to criminalize the practice of journalism in Cameroon.
Yes, that is why one of the MPs of Cameroon's parliament, or lower house, is Barrister Honorable Barrister Mbandam, has decried the trying generally of civilians in military tribunals. Civilians who, by dint of their outspokenness, do not merit to be tried in military tribunals. And it comes to tell you, just like we have been saying, that any moment they can frame up anything and say you are a criminal, or you are a terrorist, or you are a fundamentalist, an extremist, whatever thing they will brandish, just to let you not speak. Because we know those who are already in jail, we know what they are and what they can do. But it's rather unfortunate. Don't forget that we have another colleague here before joining us was Lume Saje. I'm talking about Roger Tonge, who alongside Baba Wame were equally charged by the military tribunal for retaining information that could be detrimental to the regime. Information coming from the terrorist group or the terrorist sect. The government is not doing any good. I remember during the last World Press Freedom Day, Peter Isoka, the national chairman of the president of the National Communication Council, said, just tell the truth. If you tell the truth, they will not do anything. I'm repeating it here. He said it in front of all the journalists who gathered in Limbe. But we were asking ourselves the question, if I say what is written in history, like we have been saying, that French and English Cameroon came together under these conditions and the conditions are not respected, is it true or not? He said it's true. I said, are you sure I will not be arrested for saying that, like Elie was talking, or like Mola Jolly to say, that it is a Jumba marriage or a concubine marriage? Or if there's no concubine, because if you are concubine, it's not a marriage, because marriage is a certificate. So now you're asking the question whether or not we will be clamped down by the military tribunal, or if that is going to, deter us from speaking. I don't think it will. It is the job, and so we expect anything, anytime from the government.
So we've been getting some comments on our Facebook page because Elie Smith was actually testing a system of streaming this program live on Facebook, thanks to support from Tabitha Helena. But apparently it's going to work. Let's test it some more. So we got some reactions on there, and someone was saying, Henry Kejan, that's to answer to your preoccupation. Say it as it is. Say the truth and shame the devil, and why would you be arrested? We'll be coming back next to find out why Cameroon is insisting on hosting the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations when the coffers keep getting dry and when the country keeps on borrowing to be able to keep the system rolling. We'll be back in 1 minute. And so following steadily resonating concerns over Cameroon's state of preparedness to host the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations, the authorities have taken to various news outlets reiterating that come rain, come thunder, come hailstone, the country will not, for whatever reason, forfeit its right to stage the continent's biggest football fiesta. Elie Smith at a meeting with newsmen and women in Yaoundé on Tuesday, Sports and PE, that's Physical Education Minister Pierre Ismail Bidumpat, was emphatic in reiterating that Cameroon is fully engaged to deliver to the continent one of the most beautiful football come-togethers it has ever seen.
Does he have a choice? He has no choice. Don't you see that they have a stadium named after Biya?
It's called the Grand Stade Paul Biya at Olembe on the outskirts of Yaoundé.
Just a name. They have just been digging the place, so it's just at the image of this regime, 34 years with nothing to show. But I think they were just in their role saying that, well, come what may, they are going to organize the Africa Cup of Nations and that it is going to be the best. If it were going to the best, they would have been working by now. I think it is just a matter of foolish pride. We don't have money, our coffers are dry, we go around begging for the future generation to pay. I think intelligence would have warranted that we just withdraw, and we are not, or we will not, we were not going to be the first persons to desist from organizing such. When you have countries like Hungary who wanted to organize the Olympic Games and later on said we don't want to. If there was Zimbabwe at the point in time who wanted to organize the All-Africa game and they decided to withdraw. So I don't see the reason why we should be organizing the Africa Cup of Nations. I think it's first of all a waste of time. It's just a matter of prestige. Within our sub-region, we saw a country, the Republic of Congo, waste a lump sum 11 billion to organize the All-African Games.
The infrastructure currently
lies fallow. It has become a bush. So I think Cameroonians, as far as I'm concerned, from the onset, I have always said no, no, and emphatic no to this. I think it's just a matter of show of a foolish pride that the government came to do. And another thing is that I think CAF should reconsider her position of awarding the things. A country like Cameroon that has 11 journalists in detention or 10 does not deserve to organize it because those journalists risk being arrested here for reporting the reality on what is going on.
Let's stay on the Africa Cup of Nations, Elie Smith. Keja Henry, it took threats from Morocco and Algeria for the government officials to begin coming out of their shells. That's another betrayal of the fact that we have a government that's more reactive than proactive.
You are very correct. I want to ask the question, was it necessary for the government to speak? If they know that they are up to the task to organize the competition, they don't necessarily need to come out and speak. Only to come and tell us that we have the Limbe, Bafoussam, Yaoundé and Garoua stadia that are ready.
But even if they were ready, you need
some
airports,
face needs and so on.
Up-to-date health facilities around.
Because the government is only focusing on the stadia. But that is not what we need to organize a competition of that magnitude. We have been talking about the security stakes. If at all they have to play in Garoua, what are the security stakes in the Grand Nord region of the country? Okay. So some of those things. And let me tell you, that press conference was not necessary. We know, I think the government spokesperson, somebody hinted, I've forgotten the name, and there's no crime to forget, that each press conference that Issa Chiroma organizes is 15 million francs. So if he organizes 4 press conferences in a month, it should be 15 times 4, I think 30, we have about 60 million. And the money was reduced and reduced.
There are a couple of people who say that such press conferences, especially concerning the Africa Cup of Nations, should be regular to be able to avoid
that one. That one is different.
And one of such rumors was that Cameroon was going to be stripped of the hosting rights by one of either Morocco or Algeria. So now let's listen to Minister Pierre Ismail Bidunkwat stressing on the fact that for no reason on earth Cameroon will be, dispossessed of the hosting right. Let's hear him. Apparently our feed on this is not ready, so let's continue with the questions, and I think we're just okay. Jean Fandiosis, we're good to go.
From Cameroon, out of the 32 stadia expected from Cameroon, the 11 stadia used during the 2016 Afcon are ready, available, and operational. The other 21 are under construction and rehabilitation. Among them, 14 are to be rehabilitated and 7 to be constructed. Works on the 2 most prestigious of them, namely Olembe and Japoma, have commenced. As for now, there has been no mission from CAF reporting any delay in the preparation of the 2019 Afcon in Cameroon. The first inspection mission will arrive in Cameroon in a few weeks. In fact, I want to point out that CAF missions, contrary to what some people may think, are not intended to apply sanctions. They provide exchange, and discussion platforms for readjusting wherever necessary strategies aimed at ensuring success in the activities carried out.
So that was Sports and Physical Education Minister Pierre Ismail Bidunkwat emphasizing the point that Cameroon will stage the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations come whatever may come. Keja Henry, does it bother you that as we speak, We don't know how much organizing the competition in 2019 will cost Cameroon as a
Yes,
nation.
it borders, but it will not bother me because...
Why would they keep the budget secret?
That is the problem. What has been kept open? Because if you say that, apart from the state budget that we know is voted and made public, why would they keep it secret? Probably because some people want to harvest some gains at the end of the day, rather than making these gains to the Cameroonian people. We know of stories where after projects, people now disappear with the rest of the budget, so money that is in the coffer. So it might be for that reason.
Elie Smith, just a nation that knew way before now that it was going to host the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. We were almost going to replicate the scenario at the Africa Women's Cup of Nations when you saw painters, putting the last touches as the players gave the kickoff on the pitch. It's embarrassing.
It's very embarrassing. It happened then because at the helms of affair was a Cameroonian called Issa. But this time around, Ahmad will not accept that type of nonsense, because you will not be painting, as Sirac just did recently, painting while people are doing their job. So it will not happen again. And the other thing is, we don't know the budgeting of all these things. What I know is from a colleague who said, I think 2 or 3 years ago, they borrowed 500 million CFA franc from China. Or there's 500 billion, right? Anyway, I don't know.
It's a project to feed Cameroon with sports infrastructure.
It's called infrastructure. Yeah, it's sports. Great, but I'm not seeing anything. There's nothing to show. So it has been siphoned off by those who have been embezzling, crippling this country. So honestly speaking, once again, we don't deserve to organize the Africa Cup of Nations. If we have such an amount of money, let's put it on the construction of basic infrastructures such as roads, hospitals, bridges, and try to create jobs for the teeming unemployed youth of this country.
Thanks once again for coming, Elie Smith.
It was a
Thanks
pleasure.
Sincerely for your contributions. I think our viewers are going to just love it as they do and as they've done in previous editions. Henry,
Well, thanks very much.
you're taking off for the weekend.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Elie Smith is sitting in for you for Newsroom this weekend.
Yes,
And our condolences to the entire Cameroon journalism family and, of course, relatives of Eric Motumo, publisher of the Chronicle newspaper, who died Tuesday in Bamenda. Please, just help him go and rest in eternal peace. Until one of us will be following suit. I don't know how soon, but let's stay out of trouble and run from it on the double until it comes. Bye-bye.